I'm Betty. Welcome to my kitchen. In addition to community brunches, our community has what we call do-it-yourself picnics on most of the major holidays. The one coming up, of course, is the 4th of July. And for our contribution, we're bringing pulled pork. So I'd like to share that recipe with you today. What I have here is half a pork butt. I've removed some of the excess fat. If yours comes with a great deal of skin, you want to remove that too, since the spice rub we're going to put on really won't permeate that. So there it is. If we were just to roast that, it wouldn't really have too much flavor, and even barbecue sauce, although it would help, won't do the whole job. So what we want is a spice rub. And what I have here are 3 tablespoons of sweet Hungarian paprika. And this is rather special because I get this from a dear friend of ours who happens to be Hungarian and goes there a couple of times a year. So I know this is the real deal. I've got a tablespoon of dry mustard, a tablespoon of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, and 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. And I'm just going to take my whisk and get all of this combined. Just get any major lumps out. Now that our spice rub is thoroughly mixed, we can just start sprinkling it over the pork. And you don't just sprinkle it, you really massage it in and give it a nice coating. I'm going to turn this over since we want to get all sides of this done. Got a little excess there. All right, since this is just half a butt, you will have some spice mixture left over. Don't discard it. It's good for chicken or ribs. Just follow the same procedure, but of course you won't have to bake it the way we're going to do with this pork. All right, I'm just going to rinse my hands off. I have my roasting pan lined with a double layer of heavy-duty aluminum foil. What I'm going to do now is just fold this to seal it thoroughly. Crimp that over, tuck in the edges, and we'll fold the second layer over for good measure. Keep that good and tight. What I'm going to do now is put this in the refrigerator because this is afternoon. And about 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight, I'm going to put it in a 210-degree oven. And I'm going to leave it in overnight for 12 hours. I'm going to take it out in the morning and let it cool, and I'll show you what happens then. It's morning and I've taken my pork out of the oven. And as you can see, it is falling apart tender. Now, while this continues to cool, I'm going to prepare the sauce. So join me at the stove while we get that ready. For the sauce, you want 1½ cups of apple cider vinegar, a cup of ketchup, 1/2 cup of Dijon mustard, and you can see how these little mini spatulas come in very handy for this kind of thing. 1/2 cup of brown sugar, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. And the amount of garlic is going to depend really on the size of your garlic cloves. These are quite small. And this is my favorite method for incorporating garlic into a sauce or anything else where it's not going to cook terribly long and you don't want anybody getting a chunk of garlic. These rasp graters are really quite wonderful. Just get this a little more. And this final little one. Use my little scraper to get the last little bits out. Now we're going to turn the stove on and let this cook at a simmer for about 10 minutes. Stir to get this combined. Our sauce has come to a simmer, so I'm going to set my timer for 10 minutes, and we're going to let it cook with just an occasional stir. And while that's cooking, we'll get back to the pork. My pork has cooled enough to handle. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the bone, and you can see how it literally just falls out. And I'm going to pick up this whole piece of meat and transfer it to a bowl. Don't want to lose any of that delicious pork. Right, now these lovely juices that have accumulated, I'm going to take those and pour them off into a jug. Not that I'm going to measure it, but pour that right in there. And I'm even going to use what has accumulated in the second piece of foil that I had used. And what's really lovely is I don't even have to clean the roasting pan. It's perfectly clean. I've let the drippings sit for a few minutes, and you can see that the fat has risen to the top. What I'm going to do now is take a spoon and get rid of most of that. Now that I've gotten rid of the extraneous fat, which nobody needs, I'm going to strain the rest of this into a saucepan and put it on the stove on medium heat and let it reduce by about half. So we'll do that while we're pulling the pork. Our sauce is continuing to cook, and the pan drippings will come to a boil, and we'll let them reduce. Most recipes tell home cooks to pull pork apart with 2 forks. But let me tell you, the way the pros do it is much easier. What you do is get a pair of rubber gloves, disposable sterile gloves, and just pull your pork apart into pieces. Any extra bones and fat, discard as you go along. And this literally will fall apart in your hands. and just shred it as fine as you like. When you're all finished with this process, if you prefer a finer cut, what you can do is put it on a cutting board and just give it a few rough chops. I'm going to discard that fat. And just continue pulling lumps of your pork off and shredding it with your fingers. I finished shredding my pork, and if I were making this on normal buns, this is just how I'd leave it. But for our picnic, because there's a big crowd and we'd like everybody to have a taste, we're going to use slider rolls, which are smaller. So I'm just going to give this a rough chop. See how that looks. And that's probably about as small as I want it. We don't want this to be mush. There. You can get an idea of the size of the shreds. Smells good now, but it's going to be even better in a few minutes when I combine half of the sauce that we've made with it. You can see these gloves are really the way to go. It makes the job so much quicker and so much easier. My pan drippings have reduced by half, and now I'm just going to add them to the sauce. Stir that in. Smells good. Now I'm going to take this and add about half of it into the chopped pork. Just get a big fork and give this a toss. Oh, that does smell good. Beautiful and moist. So I have a little slider bun. All that remains is to pile some of this delicious pork onto the bun. I also like to add a little coleslaw on top. So if you like that, it's a great way to eat them. Perfect for the 4th of July, any holiday, or any gathering indeed. Pulled pork. Enjoy. For further information and even more recipes, please visit my website.